This show is brought to you by our friends at bayphoto.com. Head over after the show to print something amazing. Be sure to check out their specials at bayphoto.com/specials.
Hi, I'm Luke Ayers, and we've had some questions that have come up, and I just want to cover some of them in sort of a Q&A video. So let's just answer these. I will give you my straight answer. You might like it or might not like it, but it's my answer, okay? And if you have any questions that you'd like to direct to me personally, just pop them in the comments, and I'll get around to them hopefully later. Okay, good. Got a list here I'm just going to go through. How much emphasis do you place on sharpness in photography and capturing moments? Sharpness is a really strange thing because, like, when you want to sell a new lens, they always say it's super sharp. Everyone says, oh, need the sharpness, need the sharpness. Sharpness is not a law of life. It's not a law that your photos have to be sharp, right? And companies can make a lot of money off you by creating a lens that's super sharp. But do you need sharpness in your photos? Are you photographing a knife and you really need to show how sharp that knife is? And it needs to be like crystal clear in your photo? Then yeah, all right, get a super sharp lens. Sharpness is not going to be the Look, let's look at filmmaking for a second. These days in the filmmaking world, everybody is trying with digital cameras to mimic the film cameras of the old days. And you know what they're doing? Literally, they're getting these $20,000 Red cinema cameras, they're called. The brand is called Red. And they're putting these $40,000 lenses on them. And then in front of that lens, what they're doing is they're putting a filter, a glass filter, which is called a mist filter, to soften the image because they want it to look soft, like the film of old days. Because that's the trend. And it goes to show sharpness is not, no one's going to look at your photo and say, unless they're a complete idiot just trying to make you wrong, no one really cares if it's not a deal breaker if your photo is just not quite sharp. If your photo is a bit too soft, you can photo edit it, sharpen it up a little bit. You don't need to spend thousands of dollars on the most amazing lens for sharpness. I know I don't. I don't own the most expensive lenses. I own the lenses that get me the shots that I want. And what is the thing that makes an image really pop? It can be many things, and sharpness is not actually one of them. Probably a more important thing in a photo to make an image pop and really look three-dimensional is contrast. That would be one of them. Another one would be probably your aperture setting. Throwing the background and foreground out of focus and then just seeing the middle ground of the person or whatever that's in more focus and can be seen clearer, that creates pop. Okay? Like with me, like I use a lot of side, like the angle of the lighting. Like I use a lot of side lighting. I've got like this side light here right now because I want a bit of shadow on my face. All right? That helps pop. Okay? And lens sharpness, it's not a deal breaker. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. If you want a little bit more sharpness, do it in Photoshop. It makes almost no difference. Okay? That's my ramble for that one. You're welcome. Next question. Can you explain how filters work? Filters, I just said it before. Filter is just an additional piece of glass that screws onto the end of the lens, and it just changes slightly how the light looks before it even goes through the lens. So, you know, you can get just clear glass filters, which solely act as just like a protection for the front of your lens. There are ones called UV filters. All right, UV filters are not so necessary today because digital cameras behave a bit differently from film cameras. In the old days with film cameras, a UV filter would filter out a certain kind of light that would affect the film and give it a sort of an off color. All right, so that's a UV filter. Then you have ND filters. ND stands for neutral density. It's a super complicated word, which just means it makes your photo look darker. It's just like having a dark tint on your car windscreen. It just reduces the amount of light that goes through. That's an ND filter. Probably the coolest filter that you could get, and a filter that it's almost impossible. I think it is impossible to, because a lot of these filters, you can mimic them in Photoshop or with photo editing later. But one filter that I don't believe you can mimic at all in photo editing or post-production later is what's called a polarizer. A polarizer it's a filter, goes on the end of your lens. Now, what a polarizer does is it basically, the word polarizer comes from the word polar, which means opposites. So basically when the light goes through, it lets a certain part of this light through, but then it reflects and throws away another part of the light. And what this does is it actually does this incredible magic effect where reflective and shiny surfaces, it takes away the reflection. As in, say there's like a shallow stream and you have an adjustable polarizer filter, you can adjust this and you can see in real time, you can see straight through to the bottom of that river. Or you turn it the other way and suddenly it shows up all the reflections again. If you want to reduce reflections on like glass and all this kind of stuff, you can use a polarizer for that. It is really cool. And if you haven't tried it, just get one and test it out, because it's probably like, you probably only need it like 5% of every, photo session that you ever do, but it's interesting and it's an option. Okay. Then you have filters that just, have colors on them. But a lot of these color effects you can just do in your camera or in your editing later. That's filters. Okay. How do I get catch lights in my subject's eyes? You know what a catch light is? A catch light is the little sparkle, little twinkle in that beautiful chick's eye when you take a portrait of her. Okay. And a catch light is literally a light that is just reflected in the eyeball of a person. And it gives the impression of their eyes are like sparkling just because there's a little sparkle that's just reflecting. To create a catch light, it's literally you just get a small hard light source. A small light source is a hard light source. A large light source is a soft light source. But what you do is, say you're photographing me right now, you would just have another little light or a little flash straight behind camera and just have that just popping off. It's not going to be bright enough to light the person, but just a little intense light. It can also be like with a reflector. You can just have a reflector somewhere, especially underneath the face or something like that, and you will see this like glow that comes up on the eyes, and that's called a catch light. And it's great if you want to just accentuate the eyes a bit more. Okay, that's a catch light. Do you really have to edit all your photos? No. In fact, editing only came about because people weren't good photographers to begin with, so they had to fix it later. All right. But a cool fact is, and it's not necessary to get this good, but if you did get this good, it would be quite something to share with your friends. But all the effects that you can create in photo editing, it is possible to create those same effects in camera with just light. By having your lights at a certain angle, having different pieces of equipment, reflectors, blah, 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 you can create anything you can imagine, literally, just with the lights and stuff like that. And, but if you're lazy, like many people, including myself, you just edit your photos. You just give it that little bit of a, that you weren't, diligent enough to take the time to create in the photo to begin with. You might be thinking, what's also the purpose of photo editing? Like, why do you edit? Like, why? I'll tell you why. What's the purpose that you're taking a photo at all for? It's to communicate a message. And when I say a message, I don't mean a message like a written message. I mean, it can be any sort of message, any sort of idea that comes from the image and goes to the person when they look at it. Photography is light writing, okay? You're writing with light on an image as opposed to writing a book. So when a person reads a book or a sentence, they get the idea from the words on the page. In photography, you're writing with captured images of objects. So those objects are your words and they have to communicate the message. All right. And photo editing is just done to enhance the image a bit so that your message, if it wasn't quite as impactful or definite as you wanted it, then you can just tweak it a little bit in the edit later and you can get, a bit closer to that ideal scene of that, what did you really want that photo to say? You took the photo and then later you're just like, it's a bit too bright. I want it a bit more moody and dark. Good, so edit it. Make it a bit more moody and dark so that when someone looks at it, they get the idea, oh, this is moody and dark. All right? That's why you would edit. But if you nailed the photo to begin with, don't bother editing. All right? It's not a necessity. And in fact, if you can get away with no editing, then you are a freaking genius. What are your thoughts about contributing to online publications without getting paid, but getting access has value for your portfolio? Oh, okay, gotcha. So if you want to if you're trying to promote yourself and get yourself a bit more known, that's a great idea. Absolutely. Okay, fine. You're not getting paid for it, but you need to get yourself out there. You need to get your work out there and seen by people. That's the only hope you have that someone that you're interested in getting as a client is going to see it. So build a portfolio, and keep updating your portfolio as you go. As you take better images, just swap out the not so great ones and update it. Keep that updated. Use any opportunity you have on social media or any other publication or any other person who's willing to have a look at it or share it or whatever. Give it to them. Okay. You've got to do that when you're starting out. When you don't know anyone, you have to start knowing people. And you may know a handful of people, but that guy may know another handful of people, and that girl might know another handful of people. So if you have an opportunity to get your things seen by more people, whether you get paid for it or not, do it. Do it and keep doing it, because you will be surprised where that random opportunity might come from, because blah showed blah and it turned up in blah's desk and now they know about you. And that would be absolutely impossible for you to do on your own. So it's a constant promotion thing, all right? And because we have the internet, it's way easier than it was 20, 30, 40 years ago, all right? But use any outlet to just promote, just get it out there, just post every day, just, email people, use every available thing, all right? And you don't have to spend $1 on it, because social media is free. So use it to the max, all right? Good. Any tips on storage, both on the road and at home? Memory card's good. That's it. What are some good recommendations for wrinkle-free and sturdy backdrops? This one I've got right here. It's pretty much wrinkle-free. It's pretty sturdy. This company that I'm using here, it's called Kate Backdrop. It's a UK company. It's good because it's cheap and it's decent quality. You can get really super expensive ones. I owned a really super expensive one and it was awesome. But this thing is great because I can just scrunch it up. You can just iron it over and then you hang it and it's just, you can't tell it was 40 pounds. That's, I'm saying pounds as in the currency of the United Kingdom. All right. And then I had like a 400 euro hand-painted canvas backdrop and that was gorgeous, but I couldn't take it anywhere because it had to be on the roll and all this kind of stuff. In your photo, all that matters is how it looks. Doesn't matter what material it's made out of. Doesn't matter anything like that. All right. If you can turn an A3 piece of office paper into, something that looks brown and crusty like that, and just put it behind you. If it looks good in the photo, use it. Why spend any money if you don't have to? What are good poses for portrait photography? That's interesting. Okay, good. Now, if you search online for photography poses, you would just get these lookbooks, these stacks and stacks and quadrillions of just bing, 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 bing. All right. But it's kind of like, well, what are you going to do? You're just going to memorize like 50,000 poses? No. What's simpler and what I use is just the basic concept of diagonal lines. Diagonal lines. For whatever reason, do not ask me because it's something to do with the meaning of life, I guess. But a diagonal line is more appealing to the eye when you look at it than verticals or horizontals. So when you're posing someone, like if someone's like standing straight like that, like a school photo, no wonder they look bad because they're in a vertical. All right. The secret, just the basic, uncomplicated, simple thing you can think with posing people is just think with diagonals. How can you take them as a stick figure, if you imagine their body as a stick figure, how can you diagonalize them in different ways? If you look at my body here, and just ask yourself, why are those photos that look good, those poses that look good, why do they look good? And you'll notice that almost 99% of them have these diagonal lines in their bodies. If a photographer asks you, just tilt your head a little bit. It's like, why do you do that? Oh, it just looks a bit better because you've added a diagonal into their head. All right? Folding your arms like this, okay? That's a diagonal. All right, get your leg up. Put a thing like this, okay? Diagonals in the body tend to look better, okay? It doesn't matter how you diagonalize it, so long as the person seems natural and they have some diagonals, that's just something you can always remember, diagonal lines. And you will find almost in every case that the diagonal positions look better than this sort of a thing. Hope that helps. People should start with their phone when taking photos. If they can't take good photos with that, they won't be able to with a professional camera. Yeah, this is just the thing, that I'm going on about. Because it's just the skill. It's not the equipment, all right? Granted, I don't like phones because they're just like these little automatic toys that just like decide everything for you, and I don't like that. But literally, if you just know the basic idea of composition, which I talk about in another video, you can get great shots with anything. But practice with whatever you have, right? And then when you really get to the point where it's just like, oh, I just wish I had that extra feature, then okay, fine, upgrade, get something a little bit better, that sort of a thing. But absolute no point in getting the best and the most feature-filled camera straight off the bat when you're still learning, because you don't need that stuff. And honestly, more than once when I was learning, I would just buy, I bought like a professional camera. And then I sold it later because I was just like, oh, this is not good enough. And then I realized it was good enough later on when I saw everyone else using the same camera, and I'd already sold it because I thought it was no good, but I just didn't understand how to use it. So save your money, start simple, and then you can spend a bit more later if you want.
Please subscribe and enable the bell so you don't miss any of our new shows. Like the video and please share it and leave your comments. I love hearing from you. And remember to get out and capture your own images of life.